Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. Listeners, here we go. We are back. Season 5, episode 20. Josh Fineman coming from North London area. And I kind of got to pinch myself every time. You know, this podcast, it is a tiny little bit of work, but I'm retired. But I'm so fortunate and blessed because every time I get to interview incredible people from all over the world who are sharing their life's essential ingredients. And I'm getting goosebumps right out of the jump just thinking about Josh and the great stuff that he's doing over in his community and, to be honest, all over the world. Because one thing that affects one of us affects all of us. And that will come clear for sure in this episode. But if you're brand new to listening, first of all, thanks. You know, somehow we've been listened to, and we don't have listeners here, but we've been listened to in 115 countries and over 1,000 cities now. And I just want to say thanks for giving us a shot. And if you are new, this show is part of a nonprofit. The nonprofit's called C4 Leaders. And we use the pizza making process to create space for our companions to be seen, heard, and loved. And we work with businesses, sports teams, hospitals, churches, anyone looking to rise together. We also write children's books, and then we use a most amazing hand-tossed, homemade sourdough pizza to bring out the best in each other. So if you're interested in checking us out and supporting us in that space, you can go to c4leaders.org, or you can check out the books at pizzadays.org. But let's get into Josh. The first place that you can find him, he's all over the place, but I know he likes to just send people to his website, and it's bemoremensch.com. And I'm going to spell this out, but bemoremensch.com. About our guest. Josh is the founder of Mensch, a community helping men reconnect to purpose, presence, and a deeper sense of belonging. Josh's methodology is through one-on-one coaching, men's circles, and modern rites of passage. The technique isn't the focus. Josh is focused on providing nourishment to men's hearts and souls. Based in North London, Josh's work blends nature, adventure, and honest conversation to support men in moving from simply functioning to living life with intention, meaning, and purpose. Thanks for guiding men to develop their best versions of their current selves and therefore building strong family, community, and social bonds. Your work is so needed, so valuable, and essential in moving us forward as a people. Josh, welcome to the show.
Jeff, what an intro. Drop the mic. Thank you for having me.
I do. I mean, I love this podcast, but I do love doing the intro because sometimes you're probably in this space. You got 3 kids, you're doing your thing as husband and father and coaching all these people. And sometimes I think life can move fast to where life is good, but it's like we don't always take time to just sit back. And we don't need to do this too often, but every now and then you need to kind of hear, hey, I'm on the right track, you know, and I'm using this one life that I have with intention, with purpose. And so when my time does come, I can ring that bell and say, let's go. I'm ready, man. I did what I was supposed to do on this earth. And as someone who doesn't know you, who just spent a little time listening to you on a couple podcasts, checking out your site and everything, it's like, yeah, you're doing it. And so for me to honor you with a couple sentences is just the best gift that I can give you. And then, not to sound corny, and I'm getting goosebumps, the best gift that I can give me. Wow. Because it's like the world, and I don't mess around with social media. I don't look at the news and all the craziness. I just want to see people like you that are getting down and doing what they're supposed to do on this earth one day at a time.
Oh, that I could do with a fix of that every couple of hours, I think, man. That was awesome. Thank you. I'm taking that fully in, and I hear you and I agree. I think the pace of life and the world that we've created, which the more deeply invested I get in my work, the more I recognize this world we've created is fabricated. It's not the real world. It's fast paced, it's unnatural. There's no space to be. It's all about doing. And so yeah, whether it's a message from someone else saying, "Hey, you're doing all right," or it's recognizing yourself, or it's just giving yourself a couple of minutes to breathe. Like so many people need it. I need it. It's why I do what I do. I do it for me as much as anyone else, you know?
For sure. I used to tell people all the time I'm one of the most selfish people I've ever met. You know, the good news for me, my selfishness gets fulfilled in
Yeah.
helping other people reach, beyond what they thought was possible.
Mm.
And yeah, I need that and still need that in my life. But hey, you're a first timer on the show, and
Mm.
Mike and I, and Mike's the co-host. My Pasho, he's got called in to work today. But we've you can't tell Josh, not that it matters, but I'm 6'8", Mike 6'7". We were
No.
college roommates at the University of San Francisco, played basketball there. I just came back from
Wow.
LA running a shooting clinic for his program
Wow.
over there. And so it's so fun for us just to connect and have our own mensch,
Yeah.
through what we do here. But we've always used a thought of the day to
Mm.
ground us. And my last job, I'm a nurse, is what I did for 33 years. And my last job was a nursing professor. In every class, I would start with a thought of the day, just as a
Mm.
way just to ground us. And the one I picked for you is from Brene Brown, and it's a little bit long, but I think it's going to resonate with you. Here it goes. Owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it.
Mm.
Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy, the experiences that make us the most vulnerable. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Why would I pick that one for you?
Uh, I mean that feels like my story and my continuous quest for myself and what I share with the people that want to share the quest with me. Um, it reminds me of my favorite movie, Moana.
Mm, those are good.
Oh man, one of the songs on that soundtrack, when I listen to it, it just fills my eyes with tears,
Mm,
and it's just this sense of coming back to myself, and that quote from Brene Brown just reminds me of how magical it is to come back to myself when I'm in the darkness, and I do that by facing into it instead of running away from it. So that's beautiful. Thank you.
mm. Well, speaking of coming back to myself, I mean, we always like to the listeners just to kind of get to know you a little bit. So it's a broad question. You can take it from any standpoint of your life that you want to. But what was life like growing up?
Um, on the one hand, life was incredibly blessed growing up. I had parents who loved each other, were with each other from a young age. I grew up with wealth. I grew up with friends. I grew up with fun and adventure and just so many beautiful things in life. Um, and yet, at the same time, there was something I was carrying in myself that I didn't really understand. And I was a real deep feeler and deep thinker from a very young age. I remember at like 5 or 6 looking at myself in the mirror and asking myself like some sort of profound question that I don't think 5-year-olds ask, which is like, why am I here? And so, on the one hand, there was so much of my life I can be grateful for from lots of sensory reasons, lots of reasons really. And then on the other hand, I look back and actually when I'm feeling very triggered and there's a lot of fear in me, or there's a lot of sadness or loneliness in me, when I follow that feeling back, it often goes back to childhood as well. And so, I carry around with me this small little child next to me, and on the one hand, when he's feeling in his element, I'm like energized and playful and trusting and loving. And then on the other hand, when he's scared or lonely, like I'm walking around feeling that as well. So, like, without taking up the entire podcast talking about all the details of my childhood, like I carry both sides. It wasn't like just all perfect, and it also wasn't all terrible. And I actually think in some respects, um, a lot of the patterns in my life have sat in these two extremes. I've either been incredibly happy and excited and full of life, or I felt very low and melancholic and depressed. And even the way I have behaved in work or any sort of pursuit of something, I've often described it as one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. So, it's pretty, it's in, I believe it's certainly in me, and it's in nearly every single person I meet. There are these two sides of ourselves. So, you talk about the light and the darkness, that's been present in all of my life, including my childhood as well.
Yeah, powerful, powerful. And uh, I'm sure that makes you one of the many things that makes you a great coach for your clients. And we'll come back to all this, but just
Mm,
I don't want to lose this moment to share this piece with you of just being able to relate to
mm,
life,
mm.
and sitting in that darkness and bathing in it, and then realizing, okay, I'm in the dark.
Yeah,
Let me go, pull up the shade a little bit and let a little light in,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then figure out when I'm ready to let some more light in, and then
yeah,
helping, in your case, young men,
yeah.
one, just recognize, what's kind of going inside
Mm,
them, which I think is not so easy. And there's so many things, we've talked about, you talked about the fabricated world. There's so many things that take up the space that
mm,
don't allow us time to just process what is that,
mm,
and it's scary, and
mhm.
that's why this quote, I mean, it's nuts how these thoughts of the day really anchor my whole life. I mean, and I
Mm,
use them almost every day, but it's like a guarantee it will come up again and again and again,
mm.
and just validate what is going on, and what we're supposed to be doing here. Um, but but yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and it sounds like you're in a space where you get some support, from your family, from the men that you serve, and
Mm,
and have that camaraderie and that tribe that's there to be there for you. But we'll
mm,
come back to all that stuff. You know, you told me you have a family. You started your group, your business. You're
mm,
coaching people all over the world. This show is called Life's Essential Ingredients, and I guarantee there's lots of listeners who are going to listen to this and be like, yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on too.
mm,
How do you manage? What are those essential ingredients that you need on your plate, so to say, every day, that provide the nourishment to your heart and soul, to
mm.
allow you to live your life with intention and purpose, and to put yourself in a position to go out and do what you need to do?
Yeah. I mean, so firstly, I think I want to say I feel the ups and downs of life as everyone else does. So my life feels dramatically more meaningful and fulfilling than it probably did 10 years ago. Um, and the percentage of time that I'm feeling alive and on track and part of something bigger and that sense of fulfillment is dramatically higher. But I also feel the lows as well. And I can go through days, even just yesterday, I was absolutely shattered. And when I'm physically tired, I have to sit with these emotions that come up in me, sadness and loneliness, and I've learned over time, and sometimes I still struggle with it, just how to process it. So I think for me, with the journey that I've been on, the ingredients that are really critical are really simple things that are obvious to say, but from going away from them and coming back to them, I always recognize how important they are. So the first thing is just like rest, slowing down. Um, and that for me are things as simple as how I like not just what time I go to bed, but how I kind of regulate myself when I go to bed. You know, if I'm up late and I'm watching like Alien versus Predator and, you know, I'm on my screen before I go to sleep, like I feel it the next day versus getting into bed and not being on screens for a couple of hours and reading a fictitious book that makes me laugh, you know, and then journaling or something like that. It's just a very different way of calming myself down. So giving myself rest, going for walks in nature, giving myself space in my week for things that aren't to do with productivity, but to do with just slowing myself down, I think has just been like incredibly critical for me. And that's where I think nature has formed a big part of what I'm trying to create here as well, because I recognize that for so many of the men that I support, you know, these are like 35 to 45-year-old guys who are either young fathers and or ambitious in career and have a lot on their shoulders and feel a lot of responsibility and are glued to the office and are, apart from maybe like an hour in the gym in the day, like they don't create any other time to slow down for themselves. So yeah, I mean, I know how important it is for me, and that's why I really encourage it for the people that I help as well. So that's critical rest. Um, the second ingredient for me um, is like connection. Um, I make a point on a Monday morning that the first thing I try and do is go for a walk with someone that has nothing to do with work. I just want to go for a walk with a friend. And connection to other people has been really critical for me, and not just connection to anyone, you know, like I had lots of friends and a family that loved me and a wife who was supportive and kids, but I felt very alone for a period of my life in spite of all those people. But connection for me means being with people that are amazing listeners that I feel like I can share anything with. And even at the risk of them rejecting me, I know it's safe enough that I can take that risk. And equally, it feels like I'm doing the same with them. So that's for me critical. And you could call it belonging, togetherness, community, fellowship, friendship, whatever you want to call it. It's that feeling of like deep connection with another human being. Um, and then the last, I don't really know how I would frame it, but just again, the further into this work I've got, the more I've recognized that what I nourish myself with, like anything I put into my body impacts it. So like I'm not some sort of you know, enlightened master who doesn't, you know, fall off the wagon every so often. But like I've really learned that actually the older I've got, like drink just doesn't agree with me. Drugs, like I will you know, I will take plant medicine like ritualistically now as opposed to just because I want to get fucked up. And food that I consume, I'm just more and more conscious that what I put into my body like impacts my mood. So that's become really important for me as well, just to recognize that like to be more conscious of what I'm putting in my body. And when I'm not doing it, to not be surprised that it impacts me, and to kind of bring it all together, maybe. That's kind of like the filling of the sandwich, but the bread of it is like mensch means a person of integrity. And I think the bread, the key ingredient to all of it is integrity. And what integrity means to me is not perfection. It's not, you know, always doing everything meticulously and ticking every single box every single day. But integrity is when I fall out of integrity that I come back to it. I come back to myself. When I fall out of alignment with my values, when I, have a big night out, or when like I do have a, watch. I don't know why I've never seen Alien versus Predator. I don't know why I'm using it as an example, but like when I do something like that, when I haven't connected to another human being in a while, integrity is the thing of making me sit and be like, okay, what am I avoiding right now? Or what am I holding on to? Or what am I doing that just doesn't feel aligned with the person that I really want to show up as? And just coming back in alignment with that. So these aren't kind of like watertight rules. These are just like principles that I try to adhere to as best as possible.
Yeah, I love them. And I told you Mike and I, college basketball players, high school, college, professional basketball
Mm,
coaches. And the first thing that a high level athlete does is handle their sleep,
yeah.
hire a chef
Yeah.
for the nourishment, and then tries to figure out how they manage their energy uh, within everything that's going on in their life. And
Yeah.
definitely the older I get, the more I realize the simpler we can keep it.
Yeah.
The It's never easy, but so it's not the right word to use, but the easier it is to focus on what is essential, and
Yeah.
then to be able to block out all those other things that are trying to come in and take your energy and take you away from the things that are truly most important, in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've just realized actually that there was there was something quite key in there that I didn't mention, and you talking about basketball made me recognize that as well. Uh, it's very much like a part of the things that I practice, like on, we could come on to it, what we do on our Friday mornings here with Mensch, but movement is connect to my body. I said connection, connect to others, yes, but how can I connect to my body? And maybe nourishment forms part of that, but movement's a massive part of that as well. And actually, for a lot of my life, when I was not feeling good, I wasn't not just exercising, I wasn't moving my body and like expressing myself physically in my body. And that's just also become a really big part of my life. And I know when I'm full of energy, it's because there's a lot of movement in it. I'm releasing and expressing certain feelings and emotions and things that come up in me physically, not just verbally. And when I'm feeling really low, like one of the key reasons is probably because I just haven't moved my body, and whatever that is, weight training, football, yoga, like, any form like that, that's been like really, really important for me as well.
Yeah, no, great tips, great tips. Hey, but let's get in uh, to what you do, and,
Sure.
and tell the story. First of all, just how you got started. What led
Yeah.
you to coaching, and maybe realizing that you have so much to share.
Yeah.
Because I think coaching, it's like everybody's a coach now. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
it's interesting, but it makes so much sense,
Yeah.
because everybody does need a coach.
Yeah.
Life happens. Everybody needs help. There's not one
Yeah.
person that's on this earth that doesn't need someone to
Yeah.
provide some sort of guidance, some sort of insight, some sort of
Yeah.
experience, some sort of expertise. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's get into your journey into that space.
Yeah, and I think I'll build from that, that like the best guides and coaches that uh, I've been guided by, and the best work I do with my clients often don't come from me sharing my wisdom or expertise at all. It's in seeing that the person that I'm with has all the answers within them, or I have all the answers within me, and just teasing it out with some powerful questions, or just allowing them to sit in the permission of dreaming for a bit, as opposed to just being consumed by the thoughts and stories and seeing things from a different perspective. And I suppose that goes to the genesis of what I now do. But I mentioned being a deep thinker and deep feeler from a very young age, and I could mask that and cover it up pretty well until I was in my late teens, early 20s, because I did pretty well in education and sport. And I had a girlfriend from 18. So, whilst there were lots of insecurities in childhood and teenage years, like I could tick all the boxes. And then my dad was a super successful businessman, took over his father's family business and grew it like tremendously. And I remember from a young age feeling this like huge weight and pressure on my shoulders as the oldest sibling. It was me and my brother. Um, I remember being like, what am I gonna do? How am I possibly gonna equate or eclipse what my dad did before me? And going into career with this huge sense of expectation and pressure on my shoulders. And so the first 10 or 12 years of my career, whatever venture I entered, however interested in it I was, I had one foot on the gas and one on the brake, because I was terrified of failing and what that would mean. And going into those experiences with that kind of energy, it's no real surprise that they didn't really go anywhere. And for all intensive purposes, you could call it, I kind of failed it was like failure after failure is how it felt. I look back now and it went perfectly. But at the time, as a 20-year-old, going into my early 30s, it was everything. And, I was looking around me and comparing myself to other people. And it was like the center of my identity was my work, and I was failing at it. And I internalized that as I was failing. Um, and and that became a real big burden for my wife, who, as I said, I was with from the age of 18. And from the age of about 21, we got married in our late 20s. But from the age of 21, she kind of stopped being my partner and started being my therapist. And I could share what was going on with me with friends, but I always felt like I was either burdening them, or they didn't quite meet me how I wanted to be met in my struggle. And I could share what was going on with my parents, but they just wanted to rescue me. Like, I've got three kids. Like, when I don't blame them. When your child's in pain, you just want to pick them up and make them feel better, right? So I didn't quite get what I wanted from them, and my wife's an amazing listener. So, and so she took on that role even though she didn't ask for it. And that put a huge burden on her that I didn't even realize was happening for about 8 or 10 years. And it got to a point where I'd kind of zigzag career wise. I went from finance to film finance to film production to setting up my own creative agency that helped brands and companies tell stories about either the people in their companies or their customers. But it was interesting because it was all kind of short documentaries, and it was all about real people and real stories. So I can see now, looking back, how it's all led me further away from numbers towards real people.
Hmm.
Um, but I remember my mum got I always say, if there was like the Hollywood version of my story, the inflection point was my mum getting in a terrible car crash. when I was 31, and my firstborn son was about 3 months old. And about 2 weeks into this scenario where we didn't know if my mum was going to live or die. We didn't know if she was going to walk. It was broken bones everywhere, in emergency room for like 2 months, in hospital for 3 months. Like it was a big deal. But I remember coming home one day and I had this glazed look in my eyes, and my wife said to me, "What's the matter?" Thinking like it was something to do with my mum. And I just ended up reeling off these feelings of pressure and difficulties with my business partner and frustrations with client work. And she had my son in her arms, and she's just looked at me and said, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, you've got to, this doesn't make sense. Like, your mum's in hospital and these are the thoughts going off in your head. Like, you've got to do something about it. Um, and so that started my proper inner journey, I think, of like real active exploration and seeking of guides and coaches. And therapy then was like quite taboo. And I felt like, I've got problems, but they're not like crazy problems, so I saw a coach. And then at some point, I was introduced to a man called Kenny, who is still a dear friend of mine and a mentor and my supervisor. And ran these things called men's groups. And he said, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "What the hell is a men's group?" He was such an amazing character with such great energy. I just was like, "Yeah, why not?" So I went, and that really, changed everything. And here we are, kind of 6 years later, and this is my life, and my work now is following in the footsteps of Kenny in many respects.
I love it. I love it. And I love how you kind of go through probably one of the worst and scariest times of your life with your
Yeah.
mom, not knowing if she's going to make it or not, starting your own family and feeling like, yeah, things maybe are spinning out of control a little bit. And then when we're needed, people are put into our life to
Yeah.
serve as a guide, as a mentor, as a coach,
100%.
and as advisor, whatever word you want to use. And
Yeah.
if you can be receptive to that,
Yeah.
and yeah, very cool. So you've been doing this work for the last 6 years,
I think
and
since I've been practicing as a coach and facilitator since COVID, really. That's when I
okay,
started facilitating. And then I started Mensch maybe like in sometime in late 2022. So that's like yeah, it's maybe like 3 and a bit years ago, I think, I reckon, is when I started Mensch itself.
yeah, and then not to sound too ignorant, and I should know this, but is it part of a bigger organization where it's your own? This
Oh,
is
yeah.
this is yours.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So when Kenny introduced me to men's groups, I didn't actually really know who Kenny was, but turns out he's like one of the proper OGs of the men's workspace in the UK. And like I've introduced him to so many people since, and just he's like he's just the most amazing man. And he's been doing this work for 30 years. And so I was just kind of hooked on participating in his groups for 6 months. Whenever I could get down to one, I did. I was still running my creative agency, and I ended up carving out time on Fridays specifically every week so I could go to these groups and I could work with him one on one. And then when COVID happened, and that was around the time that I said to my business partner, look, like this just, I don't want to do this anymore. Um, he asked me and a bunch of guys if we would do his trainings program so that we could facilitate in his spaces, because he was basically offering free spaces for men. And if you imagine during COVID, like the amount of people who needed the space, it was he couldn't handle it all himself. So I was facilitating with his organization for a couple of years, like every week. And I'm still associated with it. I'm quite excited. I'm going back to support him, train other facilitators as well now. So it's kind of come full circle. But then a couple of years into working with him and doing lots of like experiments. If you imagine, like, I went through a process of leaving a company that I founded, that I started from nothing, that grew to a reasonable reputation. And I had the whole thing of needing to prove myself and be successful like my dad. And I was like, oh, this isn't the thing I want to actually grow and build. I don't want to be running an advertising agency. So that was a whole process of letting go of that. And then the next year, I was like, I actually don't know what I want to do next. I just know I love being in men's groups. And I love, if I look back over my life, the thing that I have thrived in is creating experiences for people, whether it's just a regular conversation or an actual event that I've put on, where I'm creating a sense of connection and some meaningful memory for them. And so the next year or two, I was just doing all sorts of stuff around that. I was running men's groups, I was running workshops. People were asking me if I could coach them. I thought, now people are asking me to do this. Maybe I need to do some sort of like coaching certification, do some more training. Like, I was doing lots and lots of stuff. And then 2 years or so into doing all this stuff, I was like, there is a consistent theme here, which is I've done stuff and dropped it off, but this men's group thing is just, I don't want to stop it. I want to continue it. But I was kind of plateauing working with Kenny. I felt like it had become a huge safety net for me. So I thought, why don't I run my own group and I'll call it Mensch. And I'm come from a Jewish lineage, come from like a very like non-religious, very kind of secular Jewish household, but like deeply culturally enriched from being Jewish growing up. And that word was used all the time. And I didn't even know what it actually meant until I decided to call the group Mensch and look up the definition. And even the definition doesn't quite have the depth of the original Yiddish word, but the word means a person of integrity. And like I said, like that is just like the word that I would use as being what is at the essence of all of this stuff. And so I called it Mensch, and I had one group, and one led to two, and two led to three, and then it, kind of rapidly expanded, and then I burned out, and I regrouped, and I was like, what am I even doing here? And I went through a whole cycle of proving again, and I kind of had to face those shadows and that darkness of, oh, I'm still trying to prove myself by doing this stuff. And then I slowed it down and contracted it. And then over the last like year or 18 months, it's really just becoming really mine, not just mine, but really like a real expression of me. And I'm doing it for me. I'm less attached now to who comes and who goes and how big. Someone who runs a very, very successful business the other day came up to me and said, like, how's Mensch going? Is it growing? And I was like, I don't know, like maybe, but like it's growing one week in some regards, it's not in others, but like I'm growing. So, that's what it is. And I think that's what's so special about it now, is it's just becoming more and more an expression of me.
And I was getting goosebumps when you said it's really mine. And I could and I'm taking note, just so you know, when my head's down, I'm not on my phone. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
rarely,
yeah, no, I
my,
thought,
my family knows, they get pissed
yeah,
at me. I was just in LA doing that shooting clinic, and I
yeah,
never carry my phone. And as I
yeah.
people know where to reach out to hit me, should they
Yeah.
need me. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm taking all notes, but I got goosebumps when I wrote that down. And I'm not a big tattoo guy, but I don't even know if
Yeah, I can
you
see
can,
that. I've got that. That's the only tattoo I've got. If you can see.
yeah. And
Crash and Squirt from Finding Nemo. Have
oh,
you?
nice, nice.
Yeah.
But,
What's yours?
but I want to go, I'll tell you about one little piece of it, but it goes back to, you know, what you were saying about what you're doing for your clients and how they have what they need inside them,
Yeah.
and my wife and I did um, the Camino de Santiago. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Of course I have. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have.
and it changed my life. And so, it's
Wow.
the tattoo says Buen Camino, and when you see somebody that's on the path, that's what you say, and that
Oh,
basically is
that's
just say, hey, I,
awesome.
I see you and I honor you and I wish you
Yeah.
well on this journey. Hope you find what you're looking for. All in those two words. And then it
Mm,
has the scallops that are all over that are kind of your guide that tell you you're on the right path, you're finding your way, and those represent strength, courage, and faith. And then it has these arrows that tell you, hey, go left, go right, go straight. And so, the tattoo has all three of those things. And then the arrow for me is pointing inside myself. It's like, yeah, hey, if I
mm.
can, if I can get out
Oh
of my own
man.
way and I can slow down life enough, I have everything I need inside me,
Mm.
and when you said it's really mine,
Yeah.
that triggered that,
Yeah, man.
because it's like, and I'm getting goosebumps again because it's just that makes me, I'm getting teary eyed, to be honest. That makes me feel so good that there's so many people out there that get to tap into that influence, you
Yeah.
know, and yeah, people
Yeah.
asking you if you're growing. I'd be like, heck yeah, that's what we do. We grow from the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
inside out. And I
Yeah.
don't give a crap if it's one or two or three people. That has nothing to do
Exactly.
with anything, because we're
Exactly.
providing nourishment that allow people to grow.
Yeah.
And when you
Yeah.
have that belief, uh, everything else will take care of itself because it already resides right there. It's just waiting to come out,
Yeah.
and if we can continue to create that space for people, man,
Yeah.
that's the best way, at least from my perspective. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the best way for us to spend time on this earth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
congrats.
Yeah, man. Listen, it's also again, at big asterisks. Like there are days where I am that guy, and there are days where he might be like me. So there's no judgment on him for sharing that. It was just such an interesting thing in that moment of like, well, I'm growing, and I was running a retreat last week, and it was really interesting if I compare it to the first retreat I've run a lot of retreats in the last couple of years, but the first retreat I ran, I remembered this weight of fear and worrying. Are people liking this? Like, are they liking it? And I ran one last Friday, and it was I had to step back and just really acknowledge, like, wow, I kind of don't care if people are liking this. Like, I'm loving it, and I hope they do feel this feeling that I'm feeling. But if they don't feel it here and they never come back, then I just hope they feel this feeling somewhere else in their life,
Mm.
because I get it from here. And I hope if they get it from here, they feel they can come back and get it some more. Um, and it's so freeing when I feel like that, when I'm not caught in the stories and the pressures and the need to be something in order to prove myself to others, and just be like, nah, man, like this is awesome. I'm
Mm.
awesome. This is awesome. Everything's perfect.
I love that. Our nonprofit's called C4 Leaders, and that takes me to our third C, which is the consistency kind of piece that we try and work on. And I think that's a key to
Mm,
find happiness in everything.
mm,
Um, But my definition is twofold. One, you got to BTA, and I'm not a guy that swears a lot, but you got to bust that ass. You know, you want to
Yeah,
be good at something, you got to be willing to put in the work
yeah,
and the
yeah,
dedication to it.
yeah,
But to tie it into what you were talking about, to consistently challenge your thoughts and perspectives to the point of
yeah,
vulnerability, and
yeah,
when you can enter that space and realize it, man, I don't. What does it matter? You know, I put in
yeah,
the work to put
yeah,
this retreat,
yeah,
together,
yeah,
and I believe in it.
yeah,
And when you can enter that space, that's when you truly empower yourself. When you said freeing, again, I get goosebumps again,
yeah,
because that's when you put yourself and you say, man, here I am.
yeah,
And is this going to be perfect? No, there was only
yeah,
one perfect person that ever walked the earth.
yeah,
Everybody else
yeah,
is full of sin and full of mistake and full
yeah,
of all kind of everything else.
yeah,
But if you can get in there, then you can play free, and
yeah,
you're not wasting the thought on, yeah, are they doing this? No, I mean, it is, you've already
yeah,
set the table, you prepared everything. Go out and just enjoy that, and love that you were able to enter, into that space, because then it becomes contagious.
yeah,
It's like, hey,
yeah.
Josh he's feeling this thing, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly,
um
exactly, exactly. And I do just want to build on what you said about, you got to bust your ass. Ass is how we say it in the UK.
Gosh.
Um, I, so I was with someone today, and to your point, so like Kenny would say, we live in a world of doing, but we're human beings, and we need to get to a place where we're doing from this place of being. And if I break that down in like examples of every, I'm hearing a lot of it at the moment, this like sense of exhaustion just coming out of the summer, and like feeling like wanting to get back to like 110 miles an hour, but like really feeling sluggish and slow. And this like voice is saying like, but if you don't go at 110 miles an hour, if you don't do more, then you're gonna fall behind. If you don't bust your ass, then you're gonna fall behind, right? And when we kind of broke it down, like that voice was building fear. That voice was coming from loneliness and some anger, and and it was coming from a need to prove. And so when we allowed the person, when we kind of went through this process, and this person actually kind of just took the heaviness away and actually saw themselves with some more love and acceptance, they were able to face that very same pressure from a completely different place. And I think, like, you know, I worked hard and I did a lot of things like no pay, and I worked really, really hard for a long, long time, and I continued to work really hard. But I really am trying now to work with from this place of my work is working from a place of love and acceptance and enoughness first and foremost. And if I'm just doing, then I'm not actually busting my ass at all. I'm just whipping myself. Do you know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah.
working. I mean, I suppose I'm not working smart. I'm working hard. But it's like I'm just I'm not working well at all. I'm just doing this thing of needing to prove, and then having to get to the top of a mountain. And then when I get there, I enjoy it for 10 seconds, and then I've got to climb another mountain. There's there's so much missing in that. So yeah, that's a bit of a ramble, but I think that's what's really important, and that's what's missing for so many people is they hear these words and phrases from like, amazing people and coaches who've done amazing things, and it's kind of out there in the ether, but it's all about like do more, wake up, be disciplined, do this, and that's all people hear, and therefore they kill themselves because they don't think they're doing enough. And like, so it's just this balance, isn't it? I think that's what I'm trying to say. It can't just be that. It can't just be the doing.
For sure, and I totally agree. And hopefully you find what you want to do, and then you can do it efficiently, do it with intention, do it with
Yeah.
purpose. To me, bust that ass in that
Yeah.
space
Yeah.
for these other reasons, you know, and I guess that's, you know, for me, my background, I told you I was a nurse and I worked for
Mm,
33 years. Half of my career was at a level 1 trauma center, you know,
mm,
which is you're taking care of some pretty sick people, you know,
mm,
and I've spent many shifts with people taking their last breath, you
mm,
know, and so you've seen people that and families, you know, most of my patients were too sick, you know, where
mm,
they were out, but it was the family that was coming in, and a beautiful experience of seeing someone that's lived that life fulfilled and was ready to go home, and then very many unfortunate experiences of where they never shared
mm.
and never, you know, what I would say, just took that action towards saying what was truly most important to that person while they had the chance,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And I think that's important. And I think you, again, after researching you, you're creating a space for men who historically haven't probably been in a position for a multitude of reasons to share those more intimate,
Yeah.
vulnerable feelings. One to maybe even not even recognize them, and they come out in all these other ways.
Yeah.
But help them, you know, recognize them, feel them, process them, regulate them,
Yeah.
and then you know, tap into them, use them as an ingredient,
Yeah.
or hey, yeah, I just recognize I don't like that. I don't want to put that,
Yeah.
so to say, on my pizza for my
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
But what have been some of the? I want to be respectful of your time. I can't believe it's already, you know, it's
I
probably
can't
almost
believe
10.
it either, man.
Yeah, 10
Yeah.
o'clock. So I'll get you out of here. But what have
I'm
been?
all good. I mean, you can if you want to end the podcast, or we can go on a bit longer if you
Yeah,
want to.
that's no.
I'm
I mean, I
still
definitely want to
energized by it.
go a little bit, but I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure.
But what have been some of the just the highlights, you know, of
Yeah.
seeing men with the retreats, with
Yeah.
all the facilitation that you're doing,
Yeah.
and seeing some of the action that they're taking towards create
Yeah.
change in their
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. I mean, I was with a friend the other day, and we were having a conversation about being in flow and like when we feel most alive in our work. And we were kind of, everyone was going around and sharing something, and then like it came to me, and I know I shared something that just didn't. It was like it was such a me thing to say that they were probably like, it was like, of course you'd say something like that, Josh. But I said like, I feel most alive when I see the crack opening into somebody's soul. There is no greater feeling than witnessing someone like letting me in and letting people in and seeing how it feels in themselves to actually let others in. And you know, that's been anything from just like breakdowns to just very subtle invitations to ask more questions about something. But when I see someone well up in their eyes, or I see them like take a breath, and I can feel that something is shifting inside of them, there's like no better feeling. And you know, I'm very lucky that happens not every time with every person, but like enough to feel that amazing feeling. Um, so you know, just witnessing men just moving through that. And then the other thing that's amazing with some of the work I do is when I'm just seeing it the most satisfying parts is when I'm actually not even doing anything. It's just happening. Um, and again, the kind of the achiever and perfectionist in me craves to be the best facilitator or coach possible, but actually like most of the best, most magical moments, I've had very little to do with it. I've just witnessed it and just, created a space that's enabled it. But it's everyone else that have created that experience. So like one was when all of the men in one of my men's groups, it was like such a simple thing, but they all came together and they just said like, let's just reduce our phone time and let's get home in time to read our kids their bedtime stories for the next couple of weeks. And the WhatsApp that week in that group was just like everyone checking in, saying how they were doing. And there was just something very special about it. It's so simple, it's so small, but just as you said, like the ripple of being more present for an hour more each day, even if it was just for that 2 week window, was just like so exciting to see. And so, there have been big things that have happened. Like I've been with people who have completely changed career or moved country or become a father when they were doubting whether they wanted to, like really big, difficult moments, like being with people through grief, like all of that stuff. But in many respects, it's the moments where I have nothing to do with them, and they're just the micro moments that I think make it magical because I think the micro moments indicate to me this is community. And I think it's really easy in a position like me when I'm trying to lead and create community to get attached to an idea of what community should look like, how many people it should be, how committed people should be, the things people should do in it. And because of that, it can be easy to miss out on these really small moments that are just so special. Like we have a WhatsApp group with however many guys who mostly don't know each other. That's not really the space for connection, but some stuff has been shared in this group by guys that have been like, wow, like that's come out of nowhere, and they felt that this was a space they could share it. So, yeah, I think I'll stop there, but it's just those little micro moments that just mean the world to me.
Love it. And you're setting the table, so to say. You're building the culture, and yeah, I love how you can just take a step back
Mm.
and see. It's probably not the right words to use, but the fruits of your labor of then getting out of the way, and letting
Yeah,
letting your team do their thing,
yeah,
because you've coached them up and they no
yeah,
longer need you.
yeah, yeah,
I told the kids, I told you I was doing this little shooting clinic,
yeah,
these high school kids, and I said, hey, my job, I only got 2 days with you, but I don't want you to have to need a shooting
yeah,
coach. I want
yeah,
to teach you so you can teach yourself and then you can
yeah,
teach somebody else,
yeah.
and it sounds like you're just doing an amazing job with that. And listeners, again, we're on with Joshua Fineman coming from North London. His website, bemoremensch.com, and it's mensch.com. He's been sharing all these gems about his life, about what he's doing within his calling to guide men, to share with men, to learn from men, which totally impacts our whole society. And man, it's been a great episode. I do want to ask two last questions. One is just I love to read, and I know you're probably in that space of learning and growing. Any book that you read that has really been speaking to you, or any books that you recommend for listeners on just like self-development,
Yeah.
self-care, nourishment? I mean, anything that's you thought has been helpful.
Yeah, so a couple come to mind. One, I think I've read 4 or 5 times and still haven't fully completed it every time I start reading it. But if you're interested at all in men's work, it requires some concentration, but it's worth it. It is King Warrior Love and Magician. That is kind of one of the go that, and I think it's Iron John are the two kind of go-to de facto reads on uh kind of what healthy masculinity is, and I get nuggets from it even if I don't follow all of it each time I read both of those books. So that would be masculinity. And just one that I've read really recently that you may have read, and it may be really well known and well read, it's just that I happened to stumble into it, is Michael Beckwith's Life Visioning.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. All right.
Really cool, and he kind of, the thing that I really like about it, and I've become more aware of, is he talks about there are these four spaces of consciousness that people generally are in, or where we want to be in, and most of the world lives in the to me space. Life is happening to me, the world is against me. And where most people want to learn to move more into is the by me space, which is like, I have a choice, I have ownership, I have capacity, I am, I can learn from what's happening here. Everything that's happening is happening for a reason. And then two other spaces which get more into kind of well, it's life is happening through me. So like that's the listening, which I love doing as well, like there are so many moments in life. Like actually your thing about the Camino, I'm turning 40 in January, and my friend and I are debating what we do for it, and the Camino has come up once or twice, and
Mm.
I now think we're gonna do it
Got to.
because you mentioned it.
Got to.
Um, so that's kind of through me, and then as me, which is when very, if you've ever been there, I've ever been there, it's been like the most fleeting moment when like I am everything and everything is me, it's like oneness. But it's a really good read. It's a really,
Mm.
really good read as well.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're again, be mindful of your time, but we're at the spot where I end with the last quote. And it's from John Austin. The only thing you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind. And you told me you're going to
Mm,
be 40, so let's give you another 50 years of living. You're
mm,
now on your deathbed. You're getting
mm,
ready to take your last breath. You're
mm,
surrounded by this time some grandkids and maybe even some great grandkids,
mhm.
and you're getting ready to go home. What is it that you want to leave behind with the people that have been essential in your life?
I want to leave them with laughter and joy and kindness and courage. I'll riff with that a bit. Like I heard a quote from a rabbi that has really stuck with me about parenthood. And it went something like, the purpose of being a parent is to make sure that when our children think of us, it fills them with confidence. And it's like, that's when I'm really like in the zone, like that is what my life is about, is making sure that in how I am as a person, when my kids think of me, that it fills them with belief and confidence.
I love it, and beautiful, and what a gift to give them that will be the gift that keeps on giving, which is the gifts that you've been giving all the young men that you've been serving through your
Mm.
great business. Again, we've been on with Josh Fineman from North London. BeMoreMensch.com. We'll have the link to his site in the notes here. But man, what a great episode, Josh. And
Thank
thanks
you,
for
Joe.
being our guest. Any closing comment? Are you good?
Just, if there are any men out there who have resonated with any of this, then it doesn't like have to be me, doesn't have to be Jeff, but just remember that going out and seeking people that will fill you up and give you energy is gonna be doing not just you good, it's gonna be impacting the people around you more than you could ever imagine. And I know that because I have lived it, and I know the impact that I am now leaving is very different to the one I did. So if you even have a inkling of a sense of I want to do something different or change and have resonated, then do it. And I'm with you, and I'm sure Jeff is as well every step of the way.
Love it. I love it. What a great way to end. Hey, listeners, thanks for tuning in again. Boom, baby. That just happened. We out.